Are you curious about how automation can transform your construction lending operations? This episode is for you. Our guest, Keith Stracensky, Vice President of Construction Lending at Cross Country Mortgage, joins us to discuss how automation has streamlined the draw process and highlights the latest market trends shaping construction loans.
Any trends that you're seeing, on particular loan products or consumer demand for it, anything out there that you're seeing with affordable housing?
In the construction space, it's definitely evolving. I would say 2 or 3 years ago, we really started to fully embrace automation. And I'm telling you, looking back now, I don't know why it took us as long as it did to turn that corner, to be honest with you, Sean. The builder puts their draw request in on a Friday at 5:30. In a normal scenario, some human being has to pick that request up and place all these orders. In our scenario with Land Gorilla, that automation kicks in, and without a human being ever touching that draw request at all, we're ready to wire those funds over to the builder before, basically on Monday morning, over the weekend. That can't happen without automation.
All right. I'd like to welcome everybody today to the Construction Lending Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Ferris with Land Gorilla, and we've got a special guest today. We have Keith Stracensky, VP of Construction Lending at Cross Country Mortgage. And for those that don't know, Cross Country Mortgage is one of the largest independent mortgage bankers in the U.S. and one of the largest in the construction lending space. And as of this year, correct me if I'm wrong, the number one retailer in the U.S. So congratulations there, Keith.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for not botching my name, Sean. I really appreciate that. Practice makes perfect, Sean.
There we go. Well, today we've got some great topics for you all set up. We really want to cover kind of like a general state of the industry, some topics on affordable housing, and then, one of my dear favorites, automation in the construction loan administration process. But thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it, Keith.
Yeah.
And, why don't we just kind of kick things off, and why don't you give us just paint a picture of the current state of construction lending, and what are some of the biggest challenges and opportunities that you see right now?
Yeah, so construction obviously is a staple in the real estate industry. We have, everyone keeps throwing around this term, the housing crisis, right? The affordable housing crisis. Existing homes aren't going to grow on their own, Sean. Once they build them, that's it. They don't just multiply. So construction plays a big role in our real estate industry as a whole, in my opinion. Things kind of got a little wacky, as I'm sure you're aware, during COVID there. We had some supply chain issues. We had a lot of labor issues. From our perspective and what we're seeing across the country, most of that has kind of gotten back to normal. We'll sprinkle in a little bit of a hurricane, in parts of the country here or there that kind of throw things back out. But for the most part, supply chain issues have come back. Pricing has seemed to come back in most areas of the country. So it looks like, the home builders are kind of back on track with everything right now. That's a really positive sign, because the only way we're going to really be able to chip away at this, this housing crisis that we keep hearing about is to keep building more homes. So I think the industry as a whole is set up really well for the next 5 to 7 years to really make a difference in that initiative that we seem to have, across the country to get more supply out there.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that there's a lot of demand for housing, but what are some of the things that we hear every day is interest rates are too high, or there's not enough houses on the market to go out and purchase. How are these factors impacting construction lending and your decisions?
Yeah, so definitely not enough houses on the market. That's been a problem for a while now. One of the things that has to happen eventually here is the builders have to figure out a way to produce more homes in the same amount of time. Interest rates definitely have been impacting the housing market in general, not just new construction, but retail and existing housing. But I think it does have a little bit of a greater impact on the construction portion of the real estate market, simply because, traditionally building a house is going to be a little bit more expensive to the consumer, just in general. And when you tack on higher interest rates to the consumer, that starts to build up those costs. And one of the things that people don't take into consideration all the time is it's not just rates don't just cost the consumer more money. Rates also cost the builder more money, right? There's a cost to borrow money for a builder. And anytime that cost goes up for the builder, guess who ends up incurring some of that cost down the line as a trickle-down effect. So rates have definitely played a part in slowing down the industry just a little bit. But hopefully, from everything we're seeing, that that trend may start to turn here in the next month or two.
Well, how, when you say that, these costs of funds to builders impact projects, and, it's also at the end of the day, it all gets passed on to the homeowner or the borrower. How do you talk to your team about that, or about those challenges, or, are there suggestions that you have for them or for others out there on how to talk to builders about rising costs or rising rates, or how those fees or costs should be incorporated into a construction loan? Any suggestions there?
The conversation that seems to pop up in today's environment is, obviously the builders understand that there's additional costs that they're incurring right now to build the same house that they were, 4 or 5 years ago when rates were much better. The question becomes, how can we manage those costs or help them manage those costs, I think is a better way to describe it, right? When a builder fronts the money to get that house built, Sean, they're paying interest typically and possibly fees and things like that to borrow that money in the first place to get that house built. And as we discussed, like eventually that some of that cost does get passed down to the consumer. So as a lender, how can we help the builders manage what those lending costs or borrowing costs are for them, is one of the hot topics that we talk to our team about. Having a builder, instead of using their own funds, for example, to get the house built, why not leverage a true construction loan where now the consumer's the one that's in essence borrowing the money, and then the builder's leveraging that money to get the house built instead of their own funds. So, that's a different dynamic for most of the builders out there that are traditionally used to using their own funds, to get these projects completed. So
does that generally come at like when the financing's in the consumer's name, does that come at a benefit to the builder? I mean, is it sold as kind of like a benefit to the builder? Don't put the financing in your name, keep your capital, for other projects, or how does that?
Yeah, absolutely. We try to sell it as a benefit, right? And sure, just like anything else, Sean, there's pros and cons to that. But more and more as the costs rise for the builder to borrow that money, it does become more and more important to figure out ways to not incur those costs, right? Because then they can provide that same product at a lower cost to the consumer. But yeah, we certainly have those conversations with the builder about, hey, you've been paying this interest on your lines or your floor line or whatever. Why not leverage what most consumers have to get a loan anyways, don't they, Sean? So why not leverage that part of the transaction to save some costs on the builder's end? And that's a conversation we're starting to have. And like I said, a lot of builders are just traditionally used to using their own money. That mindset does start to change though as costs rise, and now they're looking for ways to keep their cost to the consumer down. And this is one part of the transaction where that can certainly happen right now.
Yeah, no, it's really really interesting to think about all those levers and how just kind of market trends and what they look like really, kind of dictate or, influence the conversations that are had with borrowers and builders and how programs are sold, all really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Affordable housing's been a big topic. It's, I don't think you can turn on or read a housing article in California without the word affordable housing coming up in it. Any trends that you're seeing in this, on particular loan products or, consumer demand for it, anything out there that you're seeing with affordable housing?
In the construction space, it's definitely evolving, right? Most people think of new construction as your typical site built, stick built house, depending on the terminology you want to use for it. prefab homes, right? Which include manufactured housing, modular homes. Some of these terms are starting to become more and more visible and recognizable to consumers. You're also starting to see what we call unique property types start to creep into the picture. Those are the barn-dominiums of the world, the 3D printing. If you haven't seen that, if a consumer has never seen, this 3D printing technique that they're using now, container homes, right? Obviously, tiny homes made a big splash originally because we had TV shows built around it and things like that. Part of me wishes they would do TV shows on these other things that are out there just to, bring some awareness to the consumers. But yeah, we're definitely, the trends are starting to turn a little bit. And that trend is really driven by the affordable housing topic that you mentioned.
Yeah, when we got together, doing a little prep for the podcast, you brought that up, barnuminium. I'm like, what the heck is a barnuminium? Had to go look it up. Completely floored. And the only thing I'm thinking is like, oh my God, my wife would absolutely love one of these. And you guys are seeing a lot of demand, in those I wouldn't call them alternative, housing types, newer housing types, maybe a better word in there. You mentioned printed homes, which, if you got an Instagram account, once you click on one of those videos, man, they just keep coming at you. But it's absolutely amazing technology and engineering there. What do you, people come to you, they ask you questions like, hey, can you finance my 3D printed home or my barnuminium that's, that we want to build out here on 10 acres? Are there financing programs for those types of homes?
Absolutely. Most of them. Now, I don't want to say all of them, Sean, because I don't want to lead the consumer on out there. But yeah, most of these unique property types can be financed. They're newer, right? So I think the lending industry, from our perspective, we're kind of learning some of the nuances of these products. You're always going to have things that pop up on appraisals and inspections and some of those things that the builders and borrowers don't see behind the scenes. But certainly we are trying to lend on them as much as we can. I hope to see the agencies roll out some products specifically for some of these unique properties and maybe loosen up the requirements a little bit. Just like anything else, John, when it's new, it always starts tight, right? And then as they see, oh, this is a great solution for our consumers out there in the country, they'll start to loosen up and hopefully, which in turn allows us to loosen up. So definitely lending opportunities out there for most of these, though.
Yeah, I guess if a 3D printed home, right, one of those concrete 3D printed homes, local or state, building code standards, technically would be financeable, right? I mean, isn't that?
Yeah, 100%. We would finance it as long as, again, at the beginning stages, finding comparables is always kind of the tricky part of that. But that's where the agencies have to step in and say, hey, we understand there may not, this is a newer type of project. We're going to give you a little grace on some of this as far as finding comparables and stuff. And that's where we need to head, right?
Sounds like kind of the same challenges that they had with manufactured housing before, like some of the Fannie Mae, I'm gonna butcher it, home affordable. It's not home affordable, but it's their manufactured housing program.
Yeah, choice home.
Choice home. I think that's the Freddie version.
Freddie, yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. I remember kind of getting started in the industry and really kind of struggling through the comp issue for manufactured housing, and how that was a huge barrier with appraisers and finding like homes and can't do stick built. And, these programs really allowed that, that change to happen, and allowing site built homes to be used as comparables. But, these houses today, they're not your grandparents' version of what a manufactured house is.
No, not at all. One thing that I wish would happen a little bit more often is just, again, it'd be nice to see them put out some more educational pieces to the consumers out there. If the consumers understood where the manufactured housing industry is right now compared to where it used to be, I think a lot of that stigma that is generally associated with a manufactured home would go away. Most of the time nowadays, with the building techniques that they use and some of the, enhanced technologies and stuff like that, these houses look exactly the same as what you would get with a traditional, site home builder. It really is. The roof pitches all look the same now. They have porches and all the same features on the exterior that you would see with any traditional type of house. So yeah, it has come a long way. And in most cases with these special programs that the agencies offer, from a lending perspective, even, we're allowed to treat manufactured homes the same way we would treat a traditional site-built home, which has never been the case in our industry. They've always been kind of separated from a loan program standpoint. So, when the agencies start to allow the same loan program, that means the features and the quality has gotten to the point where it's equivalent to a site-built home. That's kind of where we're at right now with these prefab homes.
If me and you jumped in a caravan, right, we're going on tour looking all at the homes for sale in a particular neighborhood, right, and half of them were these new style manufactured homes with pitched roof, got porches. Do you think we'd be able to tell the difference? I mean,
not
100%.
Even close, Sean. No,
we wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
I'm telling you, I just attended the largest manufactured home show in the country every year. And as I walked through, I was like, what did they do? Did they just build this house on site here in the, I don't know what center we were in, but you literally couldn't tell, Sean. I'm telling you, same roof pitches, same exterior features, and all the things that you would traditionally expect from a site built house.
That's absolutely, and they're built faster. A lot of them come with energy efficient improvements already. Just unbelievable. Are you guys seeing a pickup in demand for that type of financing?
Yeah, it's definitely picked up over the past, I'd say, 2 to 4 years. Again, the more expensive housing in general gets, the more popular the prefab home gets. And it's not just manufactured homes, it's also the modular homes. It's also the people starting to ask questions about the barn dominiums that we mentioned earlier and the 3D printing. As a lender, when you start getting all of those inquiries for these different types of properties, that means it's the education is and the awareness is building up out there in the economy and with the consumer. So it's definitely has some momentum right now for sure.
What do you say to, manufactured housing definitely has a history of a stigma being attached to it. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But when you have people on the team that, you're starting to talk about, oh yeah, the MH Advantage, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
MH Advantage program, and you're like, oh yeah, they're not what they're just hearing this for the first time from you, and they got to be just like shaking their head. How do you have a conversation with somebody that's carrying that stigma that it's like almost in disbelief? How do you get them past that hump?
That's a good question. And listen, that is a challenge still, right? I would love to say that that's not a problem or we don't see that, but we do. And again, what we try to do is just educate them, Sean, right? Education goes a long way in our construction industry, not just with this topic, but with a lot of topics, because the consumer isn't exposed to these types of topics as often as they are when they want to buy a house that's already sitting there for them. But yeah, the first thing I say personally is, hey, look, from a lending perspective, Cross Country offers the same loan product on this type of home as it does as a site built. If they weren't built to the same standards, if they didn't hold their value or were worth what a site built home was, we as a lender wouldn't be allowed to give the same type of loan products. I think that's an easy way for a consumer to kind of grasp the concept of, oh yeah, that everything seems like it's the same, right? And it never used to be that way. When we can tell them, hey, it used to have to be appraised differently. It used to have a whole different loan product associated with it. And all those little nuances are gone now. I think it starts to, give them a little bit confidence, I guess is a good word, in that, yeah, that's, there isn't much of a difference anymore.
Yeah, no, you mentioned appraisal in there, and I just kind of think of the appraisal process and how appraisers, they may go pull comps to get an idea earlier. Or, oh, I got this manufactured home that's going in over here off of Main Street, right? And may pull comps before they go out there and take pictures of the lot, right? And then they see the home, and then they understand the home. Like, what kind of appraisal issues or issues with appraisals have you generally seen, and how have they changed over time? Are we seeing appraisers recognize them as more stick built, even though Fannie allows it, right, and Freddie allows it? Are we seeing that adoption in the appraisal industry, or is there still kind of some back and forth, education that needs to happen?
I think it's a little bit of both, Sean, but the reality is, you mentioned what appraisal issues do we see with the unique homes. I think I may have mentioned it earlier. One of the issues that we'll see until these unique homes become standard in the industry is there's just not a lot of comparables for those type of properties out there. When an appraiser goes out and they're looking at a 3D printed built home, it's going to be hard for them to find another one of those within a 1 mile radius that was built and sold in the last 6 months, which is kind of agency requirements for what we're looking for, right? They may find one, but then when you start to add all these other requirements that the agencies pile on it, chances are that one doesn't qualify. So the ability to find comps is going to be an issue until these become, standard in the industry. However, as far as manufactured specifically, in the old days, appraisers were only allowed to use other manufactured homes as comparables when, we were doing new construction manufactured housing. With the new agency products that you mentioned, now those same homes are getting appraised with comps that are traditional site built. Again, this is another reinforcement that these homes meet the same requirements. They're built to the same specs. They're going to hold their value. They look and feel the same to the consumer. Because of all those things and all those improvements that have been made, the same comps that you would use if you were buying a home that was already built are being used now for manufactured homes that are being built. And that has never been the case before in our industry.
No, it hasn't. I can only imagine the underwriting conversations on some of those difficult properties where there's not a lot of comps and going back and forth. Really exciting stuff. Anything else on the affordable housing side? We have a lot of conversations about ADUs. Are you seeing any uptick there, or more projects come across your desk that have an ADU involved in it?
Yeah, actually, that's a great topic. The one thing I want to mention is when we say affordable housing, typically we start with, in our brains, we're thinking the house I want to buy is just cheaper, right? I want to find a cheaper house to buy. But affordable housing does take on many forms. And ADU is one of the situations where we are seeing a lot of ADUs paired with the build of a primary residence, where the consumers are building a house to live in, but with that project, or simultaneously with that project, they're including these ADUs in the plans, and they're including these ADUs in the loan. And then they use those ADUs to generate a little bit of income to help pay for, their monthly mortgage payment. So maybe affordable to one consumer means I want to find a cheaper house to buy. Affordable to another consumer means I want to find a way to help pay for my mortgage payment without sacrificing price on the house that I want to buy or build. So yeah, ADU is becoming more popular for sure.
Now you brought something up in there. My mind just can't shake it. Is if I was to include an ADU in a new build, can I use like rental calculations or rental income calculations from that ADU to help qualify for the loan? Is that a possibility?
That depends. I'm not going to answer that on air here, Sean, because there's a lot of different programs that have a lot of different guidelines. So I would say in some circumstances, I think that's probably a safe answer on air here. In some circumstances, you can use some of that income to help offset. Now, regardless of the loan product itself, Sean, when the house is done and the ADU's done, there's definitely the benefit there to the consumer to have that ADU and that extra stream of income coming in for sure.
Yeah, my wheels are turning now.
I know.
We go and have a conversation with my wife after this about
Gotcha.
It's right for us. That would be fantastic.
Right.
Well, getting to one of my favorite topics here, that I hold so dear is automation. And I know what you guys have done over there. I know you're a huge advocate for automation, and why don't we just kind of take a step back and as we start to talk about automation, why don't you tell me how automation has played or made a big impact with Cross Country Mortgage and what you've done over there, Keith?
Yeah, I'm gonna and I'll talk specifically about our construction platform, Sean, just for sake of today. But when we first launched the construction programs here at Cross Country, we were still in the dinosaur age and doing, most responsibilities manually. We were accepting emails from builders, withdrawal requests, and of course some of those get buried 100 emails deep, and then you're talking about 2, 3, 4, 5 days or more before we even realized we had the request. Manually ordering inspections, manually ordering title updates, and all these things that are required, that most lenders require in the construction platform. So clearly that's not where we should be, right? As a large lender, our loan officers, our borrowers, our builders expect a better level of service and than that. So we fully embraced automation. I would say, and you might be able to tell me better than me, but I would say 2 or 3 years ago, we really started to fully embrace automation. And I'm telling you, looking back now, I don't know why it took us as long as it did to turn that corner, to be honest with you, Sean.
It's a funny thing. I think it's from my perspective, I think it's a trust thing, and doing it the same way that you've always done it, it's going to work, and then to get into automation, you got to take a step into some water that you may not be comfortable in doing. But once you experience it's hard to take that step back, right? If somebody was to come to you today and say, oh yeah, we got to get rid of this automation, it's like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah, that would be a no-go, Sean, for sure.
That would be a no-go. And
let me just paint the picture for what automation. Again, I mentioned email coming in, right? And that sometimes emails get buried. That's just human nature, right? I'm sure we've all buried, accidentally lost emails. Taking an extra day or two to get the inspection order, taking an extra day or two to get the title update ordered. You're just adding a day here, a day there, and it doesn't sound like much, but in the grand scheme of things, if it's taking 7 to 10 days to get a draw process, for example, that's 7 to 10 more days the builder is paying money to borrow that money from another source, right? And we touched on this earlier. This is one of the areas where we can, as a lender, we can truly help our referral partners save money, which always then relates to a lower cost to the consumer. So it's a trickle-down effect. So with automation, what we've been able to do, and I'll just speak from our perspective, obviously, I like to use the 5:30 on a Friday example, Sean. We all know what most of us would like to be doing at 5:30 on a Friday, right? And it's surely not working or ordering things. So the builder puts their draw request in on a Friday at 5:30. In a normal scenario, some human being has to pick that request up and place all these orders. In our scenario with Land Gorilla, that automation kicks in, right? Inspections ordered without a human touching it. Title updates ordered without a human touching it. We have some coverage over the weekend. So it is possible that inspection's already completed by Monday morning, that title updates in by Monday morning, and without a human being ever touching that draw request at all, we're ready to wire those funds over to the builder before, basically on Monday morning over the weekend. Like that can't happen without automation, right? That just can't happen. It's impossible. So that's what automation can do for sure.
Your customers notice that. Do borrowers and builders like, whoa, hold on, it's Monday morning. didn't we just do that on, after business hours on Friday? Do you ever get them noticing, or is it more of a internal benefit that you guys experience?
I would say the builders definitely notice, Sean. Where's the savings at, right? The savings is to the builder. The borrower knows that they had to electronically sign something over the weekend. It's just another document of the million, right, that they feel like they signed during the loan process. But the builders definitely notice because you're impacting their bottom line. That's the reality of the situation. The borrowers, they may not notice, right? To them, they have to electronically sign a document. To them, it feels like one of 100 documents that they've already signed for the loan process. But the builders definitely notice the impact of the automation. We kind of touched on earlier, the rates might be 8, 9, 10, 11% for that builder to borrow money throughout that transaction right now. So, when you take that and you're adding 3, 4, 5 days of interest that they have to pay on that borrowed money, multiplied by however many transactions that they have going at any given time, when they can get a draw in a matter of 1 business day versus 5 business days, you're saving that builder 5 days of interest on every transaction that they do with you. So from a referral partner perspective, we're truly helping our builders' bottom line. And there's only so many places you can do that, right? But this is one of them. And we try to take full advantage of that. And we couldn't do that without automation, Sean. That's the bottom line.
No, it's great. It's something that we worked on for a really, really long time. And it seems like something that we're always working on. And, what are some of the things that we're not automating today that you'd love to see automated? There's got to be a few that pop out in your mind going, oh man, X, Y, and Z would be fantastic. We don't have to touch anything.
Yeah, I mean, from your guys' perspective, and this isn't just a plug for you, Sean, but you guys have done a really good job with the things that you can control and at least making the feature to automate it be available. Now, as a lender, we have to decide whether we want to automate things or not, obviously. But I think builder's risk is one of them. I don't exactly know how that would look like in the landscape, but builder's risk is something that as a lender, we tend to have to chase down quite a bit. And that's something that it can expire right in the middle of the transaction, right? And it's our job and our responsibility to make sure that always stays up to date. Inspection results is another one that comes to mind. With all the AI hype that's out there right now, to be able to get, we're already automating the ordering of the inspection. And like I mentioned earlier, it could come back without a human ever being involved. But if we were able to take that one step further and that inspection could get processed and reviewed automatically and basically give us the thumbs up, like, yeah, it's good, release those funds, that would be another one down the line that would really benefit the industry.
That one makes me so nervous at the end of the day. We've done some really neat stuff, modeling out, AI and how that will play an important role, and absolutely phenomenal job. 99.9% of the time. Absolutely, but it's that 1%, that always makes you nervous, and how AI will react, not to mention the data privacy concerns and how some of that that's throttled. We get to work on this is the part about my job that I absolutely love, is hearing what these problems are, and going and playing in our sandbox and working with our development teams on how to solve some of these really interesting problems. Builder's risk is a fun one that we've been working on. How do you provide the right feedback to the right person at the right time? And you'll be seeing some fun stuff from us soon. But
I have no doubt.
Well, this has all been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Keith. Now, with the end of the podcast, as we near the end here, we always like to do this rapid fire session, and you got a little preview of what's coming here. But if you're ready, I'll go ahead and start firing off.
All right, let's do it.
Would you ever build your own home?
I've already built 4 of my own homes.
That's a great answer. I think that's the first time somebody's rallied. 4. Oh, wow.
I'm living in my 4th built, and this last one I built myself. I acted as the general contractor on it.
All right. Book or movie that you've recently watched that you'd recommend to somebody else?
Oh, book or movie? How recent do we have to get here, Sean? Listen, I'm a big fan of the. I guess it's not really new anymore, but the new Top Gun movie, I was a big fan of. It was a good remake, and that doesn't happen very often.
How great is it that they're bringing back a lot of these movies that almost from childhood, like Karate Kid, like absolutely excited. The Karate Kid, Cobra Kai series, and
Already binged it, Sean. Already binged it over the weekend.
Same thing. Me and my son, we knocked it out. And just beautiful setup. Beautiful setup. Brings back a lot of memories. No, that's great recommendation there. And final question here. Final question. If you could snap your fingers and change one rule, one regulation, one law, what would it be?
Yeah, I know we touched on this, and I'm going to stick to what I told you off the air was, from our perspective, the agency's restriction on the timeline for construction lending. In a normal world, in a normal economy, 12 to 18 months is more than enough time to get a house built and get that consumer into their permanent mortgage. But, we don't live in normal times anymore, Sean. I think we can all agree on that in some fashion. The weather's been changing. The economy's been changing. And the consumer is the one, if a home doesn't get built in 12 months, the consumer is the one that ends up with all the additional costs and headaches. So I'd like to see the agencies extend the length of time that they'll allow a transaction to go when it comes to construction lending. Instead of 12 to 18 months, push that out and make some exceptions when there's hurricanes and when there's things like COVID, right? No one anticipated that. That had a huge impact on so many construction loans across the country. And again, it's always the consumer that ends up bearing the fallout from that. So that's the one thing I'd like to see is just some of the timeline restrictions get revamped to more fit what is really happening out there today.
I'd love to see them buy the construction loan at the initial closing rather than waiting for the home to get completed. That would be a complete game changer. Oh,
complete game changer.
Immediately sell it to Fannie or Freddie and double thumbs up. Everybody wins. That'd be fantastic.
I'm with you there.
Well, Keith, it's been a definite pleasure having you on the podcast, and we'd love to have you back in the future. Now, Keith, if people wanted to get in touch with you or Cross Country Mortgage, what's the best way for them to do that?
I'd say go to the website, ccm.com. There's all kinds of resources and information on the site. Most people will be able to find whatever they need there, Sean.
Fantastic. We'll go ahead and include that here at the bottom of the podcast when you go find it. But again, thank you very much for being on the podcast. This was absolutely amazing. Really appreciate that and wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate you guys having me.
This podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only and does not replace independent professional judgment. Land Gorilla Inc. makes no representations, warranties, or promises for and disclaims any express or implied warranties related to content. Before acting on any information, you should consider the appropriateness of the information as it pertains to your unique business needs.